And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I am Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename, so we've got that going for us too.
And we will be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
It's 100% why we didn't have a show in the last 2 weeks.
That's true. Today is our 50th episode.
Finally.
I'm very pleased that you waited for me to get back from vacation to do it.
Well, there were delays in getting the super realistic Justin mask made. You wouldn't believe how long those take. Plus, we didn't have any volunteers to wear it, actually.
Yeah, there's pretty much everyone out of the office. Anyway, I assume we have big plans for our 50th episode. You spent the last 2 weeks planning?
Well, I thought what we could do is first we would give some updates on the game, and then we would take audience questions.
So basically what we normally do in a normal show.
Sure, but I thought we could be extra enthusiastic about it this time.
Okay. Anyway, we are here to answer development and design questions about idle champions. Yay!
Maybe too enthusiastic.
And I've spent a lot of time with a 2-year-old in the last 2 weeks.
Anyway, if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of having now returned from vacation and trying to remember how to do his bloody job.
Yeah, so basically you'll get to see that whether you ask questions or not.
All right. As always, we have pulled some questions from the previous show that we did not get to. Those are a little bit older at this point, but we're still going to answer them while we're waiting for new questions to come in. As well as, as it says here, I have updates on items we flagged to get looked at by the dev team, but we've actually had a whole lot of people out of the office over the last couple of weeks. And so, and Peter, who I would typically get to update that list for me, is actually out right now on vacation. So that list of items that got addressed is on the short side, but I do still have the list of items that are on the ongoing list. And so starting with those, we are looking to change the options on loading a save formation to include the ability to load in and just skip the missing champions, which is an option that's missing right now. Pity timers on epics on the chests on the timegate stream, pity timers on epics on the chest screen or in the store. I still need to keep bugging Justin about that missing node on the strong core. Justin, why is it still missing?
I don't remember anything about that. I don't know what that is.
We still wish to get Havilar's imps to automatically spawn, save feats with formations, and I have promised now that we will get visual changes in on the cards so that the rarity reads better for any kind of color blindness related issues with that. So we're going to get that addressed. Otherwise, into the leftover questions. Okay.
Right.
First question here is for you, Justin. It is from Wilhelm Scream. The question is, what are your thoughts on mechanics where the desired result is always available but locked behind an unknown amount of time doing random rolls? For example, DM and nerds. The question here says, I find these to be questionable. And I believe, if I remember correctly, this is the question that we left off last.
It was. This is the question
and promised to answer.
Yeah, this is the question from not last week's episode, but 3 weeks ago's episode. And it's a really good question. It kind of comes down to the root of the game design and sort of how we want to approach randomization in the game. And I'm very conflicted on mechanics like this. I think the DM's mechanic where you get to pull a random champion in is really interesting. But it also has the big problem of, it could be a random champion. It could be one you want and one you don't want. And being able to basically re-roll that by restarting the adventure, it's not... It kind of makes it fall apart a little bit, and it creates a kind of gameplay that is not a desired gameplay for us, where you're kind of re-rolling over and over and over until you get the one you want, because it's frankly quite boring. It's not a fun way to play the game, and we don't want to encourage that. But at the same time, we want to have that kind of randomization element of like you level up DM and it's like it's a champion. It's either useful or it's not, and And so trying to find a balance point there where you still have that excitement of like, oh, this time I got like someone who is really good, so I'm gonna like push forward, I'm gonna be able to do really well with that, and balance that against like, oh, I got someone that's not very good. We want you to be able to progress without having to re-roll the adventure at that point. And we don't want to encourage you to be re-rolling the adventures over and over and over again to get the one you want. But it's I don't have a perfect solution to that yet, and it's something that we're still talking through and still trying to figure out. So yeah, I mean, if anyone has any ideas, I am reading the chat. But yeah, and someone mentions that the newest champion, Voronika, has a very similar kind of mechanic where you get to pick between 3 champions, which is better than having one option, because at least you get to pick. But it's still not all the way there, I don't think.
Yeah, and that's sort of a really tough one. Sort of the one thing that has come to the top of my mind, which I don't feel is a perfect solution, it's sort of a rough solution, would be to have those choices kind of locked in for some period of time, so that you're not in a position where like you just cancel out and re-roll, which sort of reduces that tedious portion of it, because you can't, re-rolling would just get you the same option again. But then you're still stuck with the disappointment that you got champions you didn't want. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a great solution. It something like that may very well be the one we go towards. I know that we saw one suggestion where basically there's like a feat for each champion, then it just makes that champion a lot more likely to come up. I see potions of respec being suggested in here, and having potions of respec cause the choice to change. Yeah, I mean, there are maybe some thoughts we could put in there. Anyway, right. Let's move on to the next question, and we'll keep on thinking about that. Whoops, I pushed the wrong buttons. The next question, trying to remember how to do this, okay? The next question is from Jacques of Hearts, and they say, question, any update on offline speed champ progress? I'm excited to save on my electricity bill and reduce my PC heat output in the summer.
Use it in the winter, though, to keep your house warm. Yeah, so sort of a context around this is that the current offline progress system doesn't take into account a lot of the speed champion abilities during the offline progress, and this means that if you really want to take advantage of those, you do have to leave the game open. One of the things that we're working on right now that is actually getting closer and closer to sort of a beta test position is the rework of the whole offline progress system. And I was chatting with Mark about it yesterday. He's the primary developer on that, and he was telling me that sort of it's almost ready for internal testing for us on that, coming up probably in the next week. And then sort of once that's working, then we'll get it to a select number of beta test users, and from there out to everybody. But so certainly progress on that is being made. It's been a slow go, and Mark, among many of the others, actually was also on vacation for the prior 3 weeks. So unfortunately the progress on that was paused during that period, but he's back at it right now, and so progress is once again being made on that.
Cool. The next question is from Laidback FF, who asks a very interesting question. How hard was it to write the math in the engine? And how many equations are run at max level?
Yeah,
I don't expect you to have an exact answer for that second one.
Yes, or even an exact answer for the first part. So it's kind of a mixed bag, because sort of the math in general isn't too bad, but then it becomes a question of sort of making sure everything gets run in the right order, and that the rules are applied when they need to be applied, and then that the rules are applied and cascaded in the way that they need to apply. And it's kind of been I know I was working with Peter last week, and he was talking about a champion. I don't remember which champion it was now. Something that's underway that wasn't performing as well as one had hoped it would, and the issue was around what we kind of describe as sort of a cascading calculation problem, and that is where many champions have abilities that are affected by the number of monsters that are on the screen. And when you get those all clumped up and someone hits them with like an AoE attack, what happens with that AoE is that it actually hits all the monsters in order. And what that means is if the first AoE hits the first monster and kills the first monster has been killed, sends out an event that says, hey, this monster's been killed, which goes out to the effect that says, okay, how much damage is being done here? Oh, it's affected by the number of monsters. All right, reduce that by a little bit. Then it comes through, and then the next monster gets hit, and this goes down from, so you had 100 monsters, then 99, then 98, then 97, and this can go all the way down. And potentially you find yourself in a position where it had been reduced enough that it didn't kill monsters past, say like 60 down the stack or something like that. And so we find ourselves sometimes in a hard place on deciding how accurate we want to be with that versus how much performance that ends up taking, because that can end up results in thousands and thousands of calculations at that one moment, which can really cause the game to just sort of lurch. Or we could say whatever the first hit was, it just stays at that, and then if it doesn't cascade, then you don't lose that performance, but the actual results are not 100% accurate to the rules as they're described. And in the case where it's just sort of killing monsters, like I'm saying here, that's not such a big deal, but I know there are other cases where that actually causes, sort of the amount of gold you get from them to be wrong, which would be not something that would be in the player's favor. So that can start to be quite calculation intensive. Now, as far as how many equations are run, I at max level, I can't wager a guess. I think in some of those cases it would be thousands of calculations on a major like AoE hit like that. But just sort of on average, it's really hard to say. Okay.
Cool.
Next and last question we have left over from the previous show is from Super Fluffy Kitty asking, will there be a system to overlevel Modron cores? With Nodrim, I'm still earning XP over the current level 15 cap, and I'd like a system that rewards going over this number. Modron XP Overflows.
Yeah, it's something that we've discussed before. I think on the stream we've kind of talked about it a little bit, and I think it'd be a really a cool mechanic to have some sort of way to make use of the XP that you earn over that cap. I know we've talked about potentially just awarding like more Modron chests, or something else, and just having the XP requirements go up and up and up and up as you kind of go. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a cool thing to do. We don't have any immediate plans to do it. It's not something that's being worked on right now, but I do think it'd be a good thing to do down the road.
Okay.
Cool. You want to do the next question?
Sure. First question of today is from Alpha Crawl. Question is, are suggestions best posted here, or would you rather have us post it on the Discord or Reddit? I feel a lot of people push posting to this show for good or for worse.
Yeah, so really what we're looking for in this show is questions that you'd like answered. We're open to suggestions, but in general, I think suggestions are best posted on the Discord or the Reddit. We do have, in our sort of internal company chat, we have a room specifically where those suggestions get kind of aggregated by our community team and our support team. So, I mean, I think that's definitely the avenue to go. That'll get them, that'll most likely get them in front of us. We kind of do follow the chat here as much as we can while we're answering and reading questions, but it's much more likely that we will miss something that's posted here as opposed to something you put on the Discord and Reddit and gets copied into our internal stuff.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt to post it here too. I mean,
yeah, it can't hurt, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to see it.
okay.
Let's see. Next question. I copied this one for you, Dave, so you can answer it because I know you love answering this one. So this one's from Real JPSI, who asks, 64-bit Steam version when?
I suggested to Peter that he could start building the Steam 164-bit, that we should probably have so few players left on 32 that we shouldn't worry about that. And I thought he was going to start pushing out 64-bit Steam builds, so soon? Or maybe we already had some? I don't know. That's odd. I'm surprised he hasn't started doing that yet.
Peter's
So
on vacation this week,
he
so
is, so I'm going to keep throwing him under the
we
bus.
can't go.
But
We can't go.
yeah, I did suggest that made sense to do at this point because of just we checked the numbers on the 32-bit players and they're very, 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 very small. So,
by the way, there, Dave.
Oh, no, I see
apparently,
that.
we've time traveled. Hello from the past. Or no, wait. Hello from the future. What would it be? Anyway, we're getting that fixed.
The 8th. No, it's the 8th month. The 11th
It's
day. 11th. I got it.
11th. August 11th.
That looks right. I hope. Put me on the spot. I forget how to spell August. How do I spell my own name? It's not
Your own
August.
name is spelled correctly.
Perfect.
I think.
I didn't change it. Okay. Next question. This one is from Rough Rider 91. Question is, with DM, Nahara, and Mahen's capabilities, should there be any patron variants that are blocked for us besides the Ashara required Mert and Vajra one?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. I think there was one patron variant, I think that somehow got re-enabled that kind of pointed this out to us, that some of the old variants that are locked maybe don't necessarily need to be anymore. So there's the Ashara requiring one. I think there's also a Minx requiring one that would need to remain locked. But for the most part, I think we can probably open most of those up. We may need to put like a little disclaimer on some of the ones that lock out almost everyone except for DM and Nahara, Mahen, etc. Yeah, I think it's certainly possible that we could open up some of those older variants that were previously locked because you literally couldn't have any champions in them. Yeah, seems doable. Let me just do the old highlight in yellow thing that we used to do for things to take action on. Let's see. Okay, next question is from Rough Rider 91. And they say, with many users on Discord expressing frustration with being excluded from the Shop 3 test, could nerds and the 2 click damage skins get added to Shop 2? It would likely cut down on the number of support tickets being submitted.
Yeah. Shop 3. Our most favoritist of the shops.
Best shop?
Great shop or greatest shop? There's a comparison I haven't heard in a long time. Yeah, so we are continuing to work on getting Shop 3 tuned. It has been my priority for the last couple of weeks, just looking at all the differences between the two. We've narrowed it down to a few items that we want to focus on, and once we've kind of got that sorted out, we'll likely go for a broader push of Shop 3. At this point, we have discussed whether or not we wanted to put nerds and the other click damage stuff into Shop 2. We are holding out for now, hoping that we can get that Shop 3 release at some point in the near future. But if it continues to drag on, we may have that discussion again. But at this point, it's been talked about, and we're going to hold for now, hoping to get the Shop 3 stuff out.
Yeah, it's one of those challenges, I think, where we could go and invest the time to put those into Shop 2, but then our plan is just to eventually migrate everyone over to Shop 3. So it's kind of it's a bit of a waste of development time to put it in there if it's just going to go away in a couple of weeks. But of course, if we could go back in time and talk to ourselves 4 months ago, we'd be like, well, it's going to be four or 5 months before you get Shop 3 out. So it's worth taking the time.
But if we could do that, then we could tell ourselves what changes we needed to make and then do them then instead of later. So we'd be ahead of the game right there, right?
Maybe we should just stop working on Shop 3 and Shop 2 and just start working on that time machine.
Yeah, right? Is that with the time machine? If only it works, so I could go back in time and tell myself not to work on it.
Wait. Okay. Next question.
This question is from Vovcast, and Vovcast asks, can you add some icons in-game to mark positional formation abilities working with Artemis and Valentine? Also abilities working with Narak, like Krull have enough wisdom, but Krull Plague not amplified by Narak.
Yeah, so this is something that the design team has been looking at recently. We want to kind of go through and find a way to kind of tag all the formation abilities so that it's more clear how they're intended to interact. There are definitely some abilities that are maybe a little bit confusing. Sort of the one that most people run into in the first place is Tyrell's Moonbeam, where it doesn't show up on the incoming abilities of other champions because it's actually a global buff. It's not really a formation positional buff, even though it's the amount of that it buffs is based off of some positional things. So we're looking at trying to sort some of that out and get some of that more expressly called out. Now, we could go and do it programmatically, because certainly the front end knows which abilities it makes work with certain other abilities, and so there'd probably be a way to do that. But we kind of want to do it a little bit more manually and do a pass through, and just to verify from design's perspective that everything is working the way design kind of intends it to work. So it means it's going to take a little bit longer to get in, but it is something that we're kind of going back through older champions and doing, and hopefully at some point we will have some icons in the game that next to the names of the abilities in the list that signify what kind of abilities they are. So, positional, global, things that affect enemies, things that affect based on tags, etc. And so there's some additional work to be done there before we can get that in, but it's something that we are actively working on, and we're especially making sure that we do it for all champions moving forward, so that once we get the tech in to display those things, that we have all that data done. These next two questions here are actually kind of linked. They are from Vovcast. And the questions are, the first question is, are you storing any account backup data in case something bad happens, like hacking or a critical error, so you can roll back data one day and have nothing be lost except for 1 day of progress? And then the second question that is kind of related to this is, why do you need so many server calls in a single player game? There's no need to coordinate player actions with other players like in most online games. This could be done only when the adventure starts or ends or something like that.
Cool. Well, how about I do the first part and you do the second part?
Okay.
So the first question was, are we storing any account backup data? And the answer to that one is, you better believe we are. Every day we do a full data backup of all of the user data in the entirety of the game, which includes everyone who's actively playing and everyone who is not actively playing. So it is quite a backup, and we keep that backup on in two distinct locations, so that in case anything happens,
tell them what the locations are.
Oh, I'm not doing that. That we'd be able to get that data back, because absolutely it would be awful to have an issue that occurred and then have all of your saved data gone into the ether. That would be terrible, not only for you but for us as well. So that is some mission critical data, and we keep that backed up in several locations, and we do it every day.
Yeah. And then the second question is why there are so many server calls. Basically, the game sort of makes a server call after pretty much every boss you defeat, at the very least. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure we have the latest version of your data, so that we can save it and store it and back it up. And if anything bad happens, like your game crashes, that we have a copy of that data, so you can immediately get back to where you were. Certainly if we tried to just save when the adventure starts or ends, if your game crashed in area 900, you'd be pretty upset if you reloaded the game and you were back in area 1. So we try and keep the game, our server data, as up to date as possible, and so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that certainly for bosses drop random items. They drop chests, they could drop time gate pieces, stuff like that. And we actually go to the server to get that information, because it's something that we want to have some control over. We wouldn't want to have like a hacked client or something that caused every single boss to drop a gold chest, because that would really mess up the economy of the game, and wouldn't be good for anyone. So yeah, I mean, it's really just to keep everything up to date on the back end, and to make sure that the front end's not doing anything too cheesy.
Yeah. I mean, I think sort of in addition to that, like the client has elements that there's client trusted elements, and then there's server trusted elements. And as players may well be aware, there's certain things on the client that you might, alter if you were perhaps trying to cheat. And those things, of course, are out of our hands. But things when they hit the server side things like the equipment that you have, like the chest that you have, that's sort of server authoritative. And so the server actually has full authority on that. And we know how many of those that you've purchased or that your account has or what progress you've made. And we keep that. So that actually makes sure that, you're not sort of cheating front end wise, as well as another big advantage, sort of the way we went with that particular server architecture, is that we can update and push new content regularly without having to update client side pieces as well. Now we do often do a lot of we do have a lot of client updates that go out as well, but we can actually change and correct data on the fly, fix bugs that you would just seamlessly would just get fixed because that data is coming back from the server, or they're happening in the server calls. And it also, because all of the graphics are fed from the server in a similar way, we can make updates or changes sort of on the fly that go out sort of transparently, just to make things run smoothly. And because we do so many updates, we add adventures and add characters and all that stuff basically just so regularly, having that come from the server means that we have to do less updates than we would have to do otherwise to get all that content out. So, okay, moving on. Let's see. Next question here from SailNet. Can you add a feat that reduces the timer for Tatiana's Find a Feast?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a cool idea. I don't see a huge downside for that. I do know that Find a Feast has one issue where we need to, I think, cap the equipment that affects it. I think I saw a video of someone who had each Find a Feast find something like 300 enemies or something like that, which of course won't actually work because there can only be a max of 100 enemies on the screen at once. Otherwise, people's computers have been known to explode. So we clearly need to cap that piece of equipment. But yeah, I mean, I think a feat to reduce the timer isn't outside the realm of possibility for a future feat for Tatiana. Let's see. Next question here from Alpha Kroll, who says, any update on the level up to max level up mode, like the ×1, ×10, ×100, and upgrade mode?
Yeah, so this is a question that we get every now and then, and I think sort of where we left this one was something that was something I think in our previous game we added with a feat or with an unlock. Like in Crusaders, you had to buy
I think it was a talent.
I think it was a talent.
Yeah, there was a talent that you bought.
And I think kind of the intention in Champions was to do something similar, although at this point we have not yet to get to it. So yeah, I kind of felt that's where we left it just in general. I was hoping to have it as an unlock for some ability or some Modron ability or something that just hasn't been looked at yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think so like a level up to max, like level up mode, I think would be one thing. I think the thing that unlocks in Idle or Crusaders is a level up all champions to max, which is something that we likely won't do because that would just really nerf familiars quite a bit. So yeah, I'm not sure where we are on the level up to max level up mode.
Right.
I might have to think about that for a bit.
Okay. Next question here is from Mr. Shikadance. Newer player and loving the game. Would it be possible to add a buff or debuff info screen to the hover over menu for champions in your formation? Something to let you see what's affecting them at a glance.
Yeah, well, first off, welcome to the game. Thanks for playing. Glad that you're liking it. I think that this is definitely something that we want to improve. We've talked about this on previous shows as well. Right now, you can kind of see the buffs that are on a champion. There's a little ring around their feet, and if you're very, very nimble with your mouse, you can hover over those, and each individual sort of buff that is affecting them will show up there. It's not great. It's actually quite bad. It's something that we discussed way back when we first put the game out, and we're working on it, I guess,
It was a
like
heated
6 years
discussion.
ago.
Yes.
It was a very heated discussion,
especially with
over
our artist who was doing the UI at the time. I thought it was. Yes.
I will give it to Adam. He was right about it being
well, I
really
think
bad.
we agreed on that. I think the question was it better than the bubbles?
Oh yes,
because in Crusaders the bubbles went above their head in sort of a cascading sort of semicircle
all around them. Yeah. So I would love to do something that's better than that. I would love to have some sort of way to just sort of mouse over them and maybe scroll through or some sort of way to get that information in a better way. We haven't really allocated any development time to something like that. So likewise, we haven't allocated much design time to that. But it is something I would like to improve down the road, because it's pretty bad right now, being able to find that information. I mean, one of the, I guess, in our defense as developers and designers, it's actually a lot of information, and it's very challenging to get that displayed in a concise and succinct way. And so that's sort of one of the reasons why it is not perfect yet, is it's just a very hard problem. So something we would like to work on for sure.
Yeah, certainly it kind of was settled into, we'll show the number of things that are number of incoming effects and a color related to them to show what type of effect they are. But beyond that, it was very difficult to get them all into a meaningful display. Okay, next question is from Alpha Kroll. The question is, with Voronika's extended support feat, changing something else than just buffs plus 80%, could we expect more feats like this for more champs? These are more fun than the usual ones.
Yeah, actually, one of the kind of design tasks that we've been working through over the last couple of months is, or starting to work on, I should say, is an update to the feats system. And so as part of that, we've been looking at, what are some more interesting feats we could do? How can we maybe unlock more feat slots or adjust how feat slots work? How could we make the feat system work maybe a little bit more friendlier with like stat-based feats, which are generally only used to enable champions for patrons, or in certain edge cases to enable champions to be hit by certain abilities. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're talking about with the feats, and we're also trying to sort of, as we go with new champions, if we have an opportunity to do some more interesting feats, then we've been doing some of those as well. So yeah, it's something we'll continue to expand moving forward, and it is something that's near the very top of design's to-do list. So yeah.
And just for those players who maybe not are familiar with extended support, can you kind of cover exactly how that works and why it might be considered to be more fun than the usual ones?
Sure. Let me just pull up the design. Voronika. Increase the number of columns affected by calculating guidance by 1. Yes. So basically, it's something. The reason it's kind of a more interesting feat is because it expands where you can put Voronika in the formation. It changes up her formation ability targeting and gives her a little bit more flexibility on where she's placed in the formation. So we have done some other ones like that as well, I think. But this is certainly a very recent example of that, and definitely something that we're looking at in the expanded feat system.
Right. Of course, on the other hand, something like
Thank you for reminding me that I haven't looked at Voronika's design in 3 months.
Yeah, no, for sure. And definitely at least sort of an explanation of why that's an interesting adjustment. It is worth noting, of course, that feats that are a little bit more interesting like that do end up taking a little bit more development time to do. Something that changes the targeting is not quite as simple as something that just buffs the other stats. So
yes.
While we like to get more of those in, certainly it can't be every single one. But
yeah.
Okay. Next question here is from Niscus. The question is Valentines Skill Socialite working as intended with Artemis? It's not clear if it's working fine or if it's bugged, and investing tens of thousands of item levels in Valentine, if it's a bug to be fixed, would be quite horrible.
Yeah, so I am not 100% sure exactly how it is working for folks. I can tell you how it is intended to work with regards to Artemis. And the intention with Socialite, the very intentional intention with Socialite, is that it should not really do much with Artemis at all. Artemis is intended to observe formation abilities before Valentine passes them on to other DPS champions. So if you've got a bunch of DPS champions that aren't being affected by a positional formation ability that is being passed on by Socialite, Artemis should not grab extra copies of that. That is the intention. If it is not working in that way, then that is a bug, and that is something that we will likely fix. Because the design was very intentional about not having that, not having Valentine be an incredibly OP support for Artemis, who is already an incredibly OP DPS.
I really hope it's working as intended, Justin.
Me too. I was very when we went into testing on that, I was very specific about what the team was to look for. So I would assume that it is working the way I just described. And if not, then sad face.
Okay. Next question.
Let's do it.
This one is from Evil Turnip T. Turniped, I guess, in that case. Can you add an optional checkbox to the formation buffs tab to see all incoming modifiers, not just the positional ones? A stat for nerds, possibly. Global buffs and other things that don't show up anywhere would be very useful.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's somewhat related to the one before, with being able to see sort of incoming and outgoing abilities and effects, and it's one that we've actually seen before, sort of the opposite, where some players would like to see the global DPS buffs that particular champions are providing. So it is something that we've heard the request for before, and I do think there's definitely value in it. One of the challenges is, I think if we did that, it would be a very, very big list, because it's not just, global buffs coming in. If we were to show each one and sort of the individual one and how much was coming in, there'd be equipment from each champion, so that could be potentially 9 other buffs coming in, or 10, I guess, if you include your the champion themselves. There could potentially be 2 pieces of global equipment on each champion. Then their actual global DPS buffs, which almost every champion has. So we're already up to potentially 30 modifiers coming in. And then there's all the blessings that could potentially be affecting them. There's all the perks, patron perks that could potentially be affecting them. There's Modron stats that could potentially be affecting them. Other buffs, potions as well. Weekend buffs as well. So there's a lot of stuff that could potentially be coming in there if we wanted to be quite exhaustive about it, and include all incoming modifiers. So I think it's just a challenge similar to with the sort of formation icons and incoming outgoing buffs, of just how do we make that complete but concise, and I think that's kind of where we are on that, is we need to find a way to make that useful for you guys if you want to really see everything that's coming in and be able to follow the math all the way through, but also concise enough that it's not just 50 plus 100%. So it's another one of those things that's very challenging to do well and very easy to do poorly. But with that said, one of the things that we do very well in every episode of Dev Insights, how's that for a segue, is run a giveaway. So we are going to be running a giveaway of 42 chests of your choice. The way that you enter this giveaway is by clicking the old chat button, popping up the chat, and typing in the special keyword for the episode, which will be announced momentarily in the chat by the CNE Games account. And that will give you a chance to win, to win, I guess, 42 chests of your choice. And then the way that works with your choice is it can be any of the chests in the game. You can pick a specific champion chest. If you really like Voronika, you can pick Voronika gold chests. If you really like doing the Modron pipe game, you can type in, or you can pick the Modron component chests. If you really don't like loot and you just want to waste all the chests, you could do silver chests, I guess. Or if you really wanted to go hardcore, you could do silver Rosie chests. Sorry, Rosie, we'll buff you eventually. And yeah, I mean, any type of chests, you just have to type that in chat. You can pick weekend chests. Yes, yes, Strider. Any weekend chest you'd like. You just have to know the name of it and then tell tell the person who is giving those out. So I believe that keyword this week is 50 episodes, spelt like 50 episodes. Just copy and paste it from someone else who's done it. And yeah, so that giveaway will end in a minute or so, and they'll pick a winner. And while they're doing that, we will answer more questions.
Look, they're asking about aluminum chests. You can get those too.
No, there's no aluminum chests.
Not yet.
And there's no whatever that. Yeah, no.
I mean, you could just sneak one of those in, and the only way you can get them is to ask for them from
that
the giveaway.
That would be really funny. Yeah. There should be like dev god chests that just have like only epic equipment in them, but we don't tell anyone about them, and you can only get them from this.
Who's to say those don't exist?
Shh. You just have to know the exact name of them in order to get them. So good luck.
Okay. Let's see. What are we on to? All right. Here's a question. Could go either way. It's from Alpha Kroll asking, is there any chance of moving the open 50 more chests to a bit earlier? Specifically before the summary, please. And to a more ergonomic location. Less clicks, please.
Yeah, I think we did talk about this in a previous episode of trying to reduce the number of clicks for people who are really wanting to open a whole bunch at once. I think having some way to kind of click past the summary so you don't even get it up without having to move your mouse halfway across the screen or something like that. Certainly, without having to move it to the close or the X or whatever we have on the summary dialog. Yeah, I think this is definitely something that we would like to do to make that process a little bit easier. So yeah, I don't have any problem with doing that kind of thing.
No, they're not Sean chests.
Are they still talking about chests in chat?
And objecting to the pronunciation of aluminum versus aluminium.
Oh, it's aluminum. We're Canadian, but we're not. We're in British Columbia, but we're not that British.
It's in name only. Okay.
We're neither British nor Colombian, so I don't really know what's up with the name of our province.
Next question is from Mr. Shikadance again. Question is, any thoughts on being able to look at a champion that isn't in your formation without having to switch them in? Mm-hmm. Just an easier way to look at potential switches without adjusting the current formation. I don't know. I've got thoughts on that for sure. Like, we should allow it.
I agree. We should absolutely allow it. Yeah, it's just a matter of figuring out how to adjust the UI to allow it. Because the UI currently does not allow it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question on that, and maybe I'm not thinking this all the way through, is what are the specific details that you'd be looking for on a champion that isn't in a or like is in a different party or isn't in the formation? Because it's not like if they're not leveled up, then it's not like you can kind of see what's available on them. Just typically, like just in general, right? Like you need some way to.
I think for me, when I'm playing, it's mostly looking for the like the alignment,
right, okay.
tags, the ability scores and whatnot, just to see if they qualify for certain abilities, right?
Now, did we
most
talk about
people
putting
say.
that information like on a little icon on the portrait and then never do it? Is that something we talked about?
We talked about, I think we talked about having like an option to kind of toggle that stuff on. Because I remember talking about, you know, like if you toggled it all on, that instead of like the portrait, it's just like a mass of icons. It just becomes like you're running, you know, raiding in WoW with like a million mods from back in the day. Um, but yeah, I think we have talked about that before.
Yeah, because sort of to provide that particular information before you swap, because that was kind of the key information that people wanted to know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely the will to do something there. It's just a matter of kind of figuring out exactly what it is, and then finding the time to do it.
Okay.
Alternatively, we could do the whole collection dialogue, which I haven't talked about in months at
in
this
weeks, right?
point. Wandering Breath said, "This sounds like a great chance for Justin to segue into his collection screen reverie." Well, yes, it is. I would love to have some sort of thing where instead of, you know, going to the collection screen and seeing the loot for your champions, you can go to the collections dialogue or the progress dialogue and see all of the champions, all of the monsters you fought, be able to bring them up and see their animations and their attacks and be able to read through all the adventure text and see how many adventures you've completed out of how many there are, and how much equipment you've gotten out of how much there is, and your total item level and all that stuff. It'd be amazing, but still really far away. Anyway.
Well, you got that one in. Quota fulfilled.
Okay. Next question is not for me. It's for you, because you're the only other person here. The question is from OG17, who says, why do stores 2 and 3 have different gem item inventories?
Yeah, so this is actually a really straightforward answer to this question, and that is that we, as part of putting together Stop 3, decided that we would add some additional items, item types to the gem store, because they're different. Actually, they're actually different item types. That is the champion for gems is an item type that doesn't exist in Shop 2, and the click skins are also an item type that doesn't exist in Shop 2. And that's just the processing for pulling in how to display it and the description, and then how it actually processes and credits the item when it gets purchased. And so we added those in for Shop 3 because we thought, hey, it'd be great to have these as an additional thing that we could sell for gems. And as you may or may not be aware at this point, we were hoping to get that out a lot sooner and just roll it out. So we thought that there would be a small period of time where that was unavailable in Shop 2. But yeah, so the reason they're different is because they are new features. They're net new features for Shop 3 to have those item types sold for gems.
Next question is from the Zork, who asks, can you open some beta tester slots voluntarily on Discord to test future builds for people interested in that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so previously, when we've had beta features that we've opened up to community testing, we have reached out to various community members who seem to be quite active in the community and offering them to join the beta testing or alpha testing in that case channel. It's probably something that we'll do again this time. Sort of contact our mods and the people who are monitoring the Discord and sort of say who's sort of the key community members who look like they'd be interested in that and might provide, solid feedback, and then invite them to join that. So, I mean, that's certainly when we get to the point where we're starting the testing on that, we'll certainly let people know. I'm not really sure how many slots that we would have for something like that, and we do try to go first to the people who we know seem to be quite active and positive community members, but asking at that point wouldn't hurt to see if there are available spots for that. But like I say, we do limit that to a fairly small number of people, but it's worth a shot. Asking at that time and see if we got space for additional people to try it out. Okay, next question. This one is from a Decaf Hobgoblin 5. Probably pretty chill with the decaf.
Subdued, yeah.
The question is, will there be a 12 champion formation added into the game in the near future?
So the answer to that is no, I don't think so. But I will say that there is an 11 slot formation potentially coming soon. Yeah.
11?
Ooh, spoilers on Dev Insights? We would never.
11's just
slot
one short of
formation.
12, Justin.
It is just one slot short of 12. But yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for that 11 slot formation. And I will let that stay there.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. This is from Hufik. Can you move Shop Patrons Forge on the global map menu? I don't like to start a new adventure only for checking quests or shop. So I guess they're asking to add those things to the map.
Yeah, I think they're asking. This is sort of, we've seen this quite a bit. Sort of the option to view the patrons specifically for challenges on the campaign map, and this is something that we do want to do. The challenge is, or the challenge was at least, that some of the data that we need to display those is only active when you're on an active adventure. And so that was the reason previously why we were not able to do that really easily. Otherwise, we definitely would have. But I believe there's been some restructuring of that data with the, way back when we introduced multi-parties, that now makes that a little bit easier to do. But I'm not 100% sure on the tech for that. But I know it is something that we are looking at doing moving forward. So at some point we will get at least some of those options onto the campaign map.
All right.
I thought we answered this one already. The news in the background party rework progress.
Yeah, I think this question was as part of the introduction. I covered a little bit of this, but it's probably worth following up for anyone who joined midstream.
For anyone who wasn't here at the beginning of this stream, Peter Depan asks, any news on the background party rework progress?
Yeah, so as Justin has alluded, we did answer this earlier in the stream, but this is well underway. The developer who has been tasked with this was out on vacation for the last couple of weeks, but is back and is back at it. He has informed me that we're at about the stage where probably about a week from now we'll be doing internal testing sort of with the people here, and then shortly thereafter we'll be able to open that up to sort of our alpha testing in sort of the Discord channels and that sort of thing. So that'll be something that you'll look forward to in the next few weeks. And that's sort of what the question earlier was about, sort of asking for opportunities to be in the beta testing, or I guess in this case more like an alpha testing group if you're on the Discord. So soon, it's coming. It's definitely coming. Yep. All right. Next question here is from Rackies. Do HP interfering abilities change the amount of gold we earn?
Good question. Rackus.
So terrible.
We are so bad at names. Why can't you all just name yourselves Fred and John and Bob? Then we'd be so much
4
better.
letters.
Anyway, the answer to the question of do HP interfering abilities change the amount of gold dropped by monsters is no, it should not. So certainly the main one here is Modron cores. Most Modron cores have a output that reduces the amount of health, but the actual amount of gold that's dropped is based off of the base amount of health that they would have. So it's not affected if HP goes up or down. We've got time for 2 more questions, I guess.
Barely.
Since you've highlighted another one.
Yep. Sure
All
have.
Right, so this question is from Dagran Dolph. who says, with the game growing in size and scope, my phone is turning molten hot when running background parties. Do you think it will ever be possible to have a port option where we can port an iOS account to PC or vice versa?
Yeah, molten hot. I mean, if it's molten, I suppose it actually has to turn to liquid. This is a bad sign.
You think they might be slightly exaggerating?
A little hyperbole there. Anyway, so in general, the answer to that is no. We don't support account linking or porting between platforms. However, for extenuating circumstances, if you talk to support, they may be able to transfer you across. Like I say, it's more one of those extenuating circumstances type cases is when we will consider doing that. So if you ask support and open a ticket from both accounts, for this particular case, they may be able to do that for you. But it isn't something we typically support, and it is something that the platforms, especially platforms that sort of have lock-in on their users, don't like us to do. But it is something where, if you can't play the game anymore, or it's not working the way it should be for you, that we can make exceptions and use and move those players, or move your player data across if need be. So that is what I would suggest in that particular case. But it is not going to be a feature that we generally have in the game.
Mm-hmm. And then the last question here is not really about the game. I mean, it's kind of about it's more about us.
Do we have time to answer that, Justin? I mean,
you can be really, really fast.
All right. I feel like this is
we just have to summarize 30 years of our lives. Anyway, it's from Chistox.
I spend all the time trying to pronounce the name.
I'll do that. And it is... Oh, no, we're out of time. Darn. No. It is... hey, guys, I would love to hear about your lives before this game came about and how you landed on doing this. Maybe we just focus on how we landed on doing this. Any huge challenges along the way?
Right. See, this is a question you can't answer in the 3 minutes that we have left.
We have 3 minutes. All we have to do is describe the first 7 years of the company prior to Idle Champions.
Yeah, I don't know that I can do it in 3 minutes. Yeah, I mean, so Justin and I have known each other for 30 years. And
33.
Back when we were only, we were in grade school or middle school, we came up with a company named DJ Arts Games, which is actually what this company was named for the first 5 or 6 years before we changed the name to Codename. And back when the sort of Facebook games were big, which was, 8-9 years ago now at this point.
12 years ago.
We had actually made a game called Eggbreaker, which was a huge success on Facebook for us, which is what sort of launched us into being able to form a company and do further games that got us to this point. And so at that point, we were both in just finishing up university. And so as we graduated from that, we launched this company here actually in this very space that I'm sitting in was our first offices. We've now got the 3 offices further on attached to it. And we made Eggbreaker 2, then we made Bushwhacker 2, Mystic Guardians, Vampire Mob City, Shards of Titan,
Adventures.
Egg Drop,
yeah.
Don't forget that. And then Crusaders, which was our big sort of idle game hit. And then that led into this game, into Champions. And Champions was a game that we were only able to create because we got the D&D license, which was something that our CEO, Eric, spent, I don't know what the best way to describe it is, but it worked his magic, I suppose, would be the way to say it, to convince the people
he wore them
Wizards,
down.
that it would be a really, really good partnership and great idea to do. So yeah, that's what I can do in about 2 minutes. So I don't know, Justin.
That was a great summary. Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely had some challenges along the way. Everything definitely wasn't rosy along the way the whole time. But things are great now. We love the game, and we love that you all show up for our stream and ask great questions.
Yeah, Hufik is saying, yeah, wow, so many games. It's like we started in 2009, so...
Technically Eggbreaker 2008, but
yeah,
we opened the office in 2009.
So we've been at it for a little while, just a little while.
Just a bit.
Perfect. All right, let's outro before we run out of time.
Okay, well, if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry, we'll have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods, Martin. It was Martin and Jordan this week. They're the ones who copy your questions into our questions doc and make things awesome. So thanks to you too.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, and enjoying the game, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
we'd have to do something else.
All right.
And we like what we do.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Oof, take a breath.
That was like the fastest outro ever. So happy.
Oh, we got like 30 seconds to spare.
Bam. We could just chat for 30 seconds.
I got nothing.
Yeah. No, me either.